My wife, Jessie, came into the house after yoga or wherever she disappears to on Saturday mornings and asked why my suitcases were in my SUV. I looked at her. "Jack, please tell me what's going on." I sent her a photo, a selfie of my naked wife and a naked man in front of a mirror. They were hugging, so the photo was decent. When she saw the photo, she said, "He only sent it because I broke up with him." "Please, Jack, don't leave. Let me explain." I couldn't say a word, so I sent her another message. "No, I don't want to hear anything. I don't care what you say. I'm leaving." I left the house and she ran after me. She tried to get into my SUV as I was pulling out of the driveway, but she tripped and fell to the ground. I turned off my phone and headed to a hotel I had booked 3 hours away from home. Once I was settled in, I closed all of our accounts and found a place to live for the next month. The only time I turned on my phone was on Monday when I was at work. There were literally 100 missed calls with voicemails and almost as many text messages from Jessie. I sent our 3 kids a photo and wrote, "Your mom found someone else? We're getting divorced." The kids tried to call and text me, but I really couldn't talk about it. This triggered a new wave of calls and messages from Jessie. A friend recommended a lawyer, and I made an appointment for Friday. It didn't matter that she had cheated on me. She would still get half of my retirement fund and half of the house. I didn't care. The next week, she was served with divorce papers. The following Wednesday, Jessie received the papers and tried to break into my house. I had already blocked her. We were working on several government contracts, so security was pretty tight. Jessie didn't give up and was arrested for trespassing. I ended up in a small, shabby apartment that seemed completely unsuitable for me. The divorce was dragging on, but I didn't care. The only thing that bothered me was that my lawyer called me every week and said nothing. Finally, I got the long-awaited call. Jessie was demanding counseling. My lawyer made it clear that I had no choice if I didn't want to end up in court for contempt of court and in county jail, and I had to at least pretend to participate in the counseling sessions. Jessie began the first session with an apology and an admission that it was a mistake. I printed out several copies of the photo and metadata, showing that the photo had been taken 3 months before I received it. At the bottom, I wrote, "It wasn't a mistake. It was months of mistakes." Jessie ran out of the room. The counselor asked me if I saw any chance of reconciliation, and I shook my head. He asked if I was a man of few words. I nodded. He laughed and said that the court had ordered 12 sessions to be held every 2 weeks and wished me luck. I decided I was dismissed and left. Jessie began the next session by explaining why she had cheated on me. While she was talking, I looked out the window. I was a civil engineer and was fascinated by the old railroad bridge across the street. Jessie began complaining that I wasn't listening to her, so I repeated word for word everything she had said in the last 5 minutes, except for the word cheated, which I replaced with unfaithful. She started crying again and left. I smiled at the counselor and left. Jessie started the 3rd week by trying to talk to me instead of the counselor and asked if I could at least talk to her. I shook my head. She asked if I could find it in myself to forgive her. I shook my head. Jessie fell to her knees in front of me. "Please, Jack, say something, anything, yell at me, curse me, call me a whore, just let me hear your voice." I shook my head and left. That was our last session. It was a difficult decision, but I decided to buy out Jessie's share of the house. I ordered a large dumpster and threw away everything that was left of Jessie, including all of our things from the bedroom. After the fiasco with Jessie trying to get into the building, word got out at the office about my divorce. Some women started flirting with me, and the guys wanted to distract me from my sadness. I brushed everyone off. In fact, I only talked to my boss, the other engineers on my project, and my administrator. All conversations were work-related. Finally, I sent my new number to my children and talked to them. The conversations with my children were brief. They offered their support, and I thanked them. As soon as the conversation turned to Jessie or anything related to her, I ended it. I could have easily gone the entire weekend without saying a word. My administrator was very perceptive and understood everything. On Monday morning, she came into my office, sat down, and asked how many words I had spoken over the weekend. I took my notebook and wrote a big 0 on it. She asked why, and I wrote, "If I start talking, I'll cry and I won't be able to stop." "It's eating you up inside, Jack." I wrote, "I'll be glad when it's over." She came over to hug me, but I raised my hand, and she left my office in tears. That's basically the story I told the woman sitting across from me at the kitchen table. I woke up in her bed an hour ago, hungover and feeling like a typical American. It's strange to wake up in an unfamiliar room with no idea how you got there. The room appears to belong to a woman. There was a wedding photo on the table. I realized that lying next to me in bed was an older version of the woman in the photo. She was wearing a robe, and I was lying under the covers in my underwear. It was hard to tell, but she was almost beautiful and perhaps a little overweight. "Here, Jack, take these," she said, handing me a couple of Tylenol pills. "Are you married?" I asked, trying to figure out what kind of mess I was in. "No, Jack, that's an old photo. I thought I looked good in it, so I didn't throw it away with the rest of my things from the marriage." "You probably don't remember that last night we celebrated the anniversary of our divorce." "I remember, that's why I left. I don't usually drink, and I'm sorry, but I don't remember your name." "My name is Karen, and my friends quickly noticed that you don't drink. They chose me to be your guardian angel last night. Don't worry, we didn't do anything last night. I wasn't even sure you'd wake up this morning. Let's go get some coffee." I looked under the covers to make sure I was only wearing my underwear. Karen said, "Oh, right? You had a little accident last night. Your clothes are in the washing machine. I have some sweatpants you can wear. I'll wait for you downstairs. The bathroom is the door on the left." She handed me the sweatpants and closed the door behind her. Getting out of bed wasn't easy, and when I got to the bathroom, I realized I wasn't wearing any underwear. Even from the top of the stairs, the coffee smelled amazing. When I sat down, Karen handed me a cup of coffee. She said it was black and strong, just as I had requested. "Karen, did I embarrass myself last night?" "Well, you didn't try to get on top of any of us or start a fight, but everything else I think you did." "So my clothes are in the wash? Because I threw up on myself." "That's putting it mildly, Jack. I don't smell vomit. Is it going to get worse?" "My girlfriend and I put you in the shower and washed you." "I'm sorry I caused you so much trouble last night." "Don't worry about it, Jack. My husband was such a heartless bastard when he divorced me. I had no idea he was cheating on me. I came home and found divorce papers on the kitchen table with a note saying he'd met someone else. It was hard not to believe that all men were heartless bastards. And then we met this guy who was crying because his wife had cheated on him. It made me see humanity in a different light." "I cried?" "Yes, Jack, you cried. Not at the bar, but all the way home, in the shower, and when we put you to bed. My manager has been trying to make me cry for almost a year. She'll be so happy." What else did I say? Not much, Jack. Nothing coherent anyway. Why don't you tell me your story, now that you're a little sober? And I told her the story I described in the first few paragraphs. Surprisingly, I didn't cry again. I told her that I had never told anyone this story, that my children knew bits and pieces of it, and that I had sent them the photo. Karen said I should eat, but she didn't have anything special at home, so she suggested we go out for breakfast. I gladly agreed, as I was completely starving. My clothes were dry, but my shoes were still wet, so I borrowed her son's sneakers. We had a very pleasant chat over breakfast. She was a software engineer, so we approached things with the same engineering logic. She had 2 sons who were students. My eldest had already finished his studies, and the 2 younger ones were still in school. But when breakfast was over, so was our time together. We both felt it. Karen, let me invite you to dinner next Friday. Why, Jack? Why are you inviting me to dinner? Let's try to repay my guardian angel who took care of me when I couldn't take care of myself. Or as a person I'd like to get to know better, or maybe because you're the first person I've been able to talk to about the most terrifying experience of my life. And since you've already seen me naked and crying, how much lower can I go? Jack, I agree, but you have to understand that I haven't been with anyone but my husband for the last 25 years. Then we're very similar, Karen. Maybe it's fate. When we pulled up to her house, there was another car in the driveway. That's my best friend Joyce. She helped me with you last night. She wants to see you sober. I guess that's a step up from the man she met last night, I said. Hello, Jack, Joyce said as we entered Karen's house. I'm glad you're alive, although I was very worried last night. By the way, do you mind if I send you a bill for cleaning your car? I'm so sorry, Joyce. I don't know what came over me. I don't drink, and I'll be happy to pay for the damage. Joyce smiled, and I was almost certain that I would never see the bill and that her teasing would never end. She seemed like the kind of person who believed that the world should be laughed at, and she would be the first to do so. Finally, I said goodbye, thanked them both for their concern, and went home. My apartment seemed different. Everything seemed different. Monday at work was different too. My manager jumped on me as soon as she saw me on Monday. You better start talking, Jack. I'm guessing the number of words you wrote over the weekend is way above 0, she asked. As if I had diarrhea, I told her the whole story of my weekend and the end of my marriage to Jesse. I couldn't bring myself to stop talking. My manager came over and hugged me. I didn't stop her and hugged her back. You don't know how happy I am, Jack. I was so afraid that one morning I would come to work and find you hanging from the ceiling because of a woman who doesn't deserve you. My assistant suggested a place where we could take Karen out to dinner. The place was booked a year in advance, but my assistant knew someone who could get us in on Friday. Karen was shocked when I told her where we were going. When I picked her up, she looked like $1 million. I probably told her she was almost beautiful, but that night she was so much more. I think I told her she was beautiful at least 10 times on the way to the restaurant. We were seated quickly, and all the waiters knew our names. After we ordered, Karen excused herself and went to the ladies' room, and when she came back, she was a little out of it. She said, "There was a woman in the ladies' room. We were touching up our makeup, and she asked me how long I'd known Jack. I replied that it was our first date, if you could call it that, and that I had only known you for 2 weeks. I also told her that it was my first date in decades. She said that you were a very special person, and that I was very lucky. She also asked me to tell you that Jesse was happy for you. Was this the Jesse I was thinking of?" "I think so." "Then I'm screwed. She's not for me." The first date led to a second, and then a third. Of course, my assistant asked for details, and she was disappointed to learn that Karen and I hadn't slept together yet. On the third date, Karen seemed a little off. We went to a comedy show and then to her place. "Talk to me, Karen. You've been off all night." "This is going to be difficult, Jack, and I'm very sorry. According to the rules of divorce, if you agreed to a third date, sex is no longer taboo. But I have to tell you, Jack, that after my divorce, I had a sexual relationship with Joyce. I don't know what to say. She's been there for me for so long. I'm sure I would have given up long ago without her." Thousands of thoughts raced through my head as I tried to figure out what was bothering Karen. Maybe I said or did something to hurt her, or maybe she wasn't as interested in me as I was in her. It never occurred to me that she was a lesbian. I started pacing around her living room. "Talk to me, Jack." "I'm sorry, Karen. I don't know where to start. I have nothing against you being a lesbian, but why did you even date me?" "Neither Joyce nor I consider ourselves lesbians. We've known each other since high school and have been very close ever since. We got married around the same time and divorced around the same time. You know how lonely it is to live after a divorce. We took turns pulling each other out of depression. One night, after a few too many drinks, we crossed the line, more out of sexual attraction than anything else. And it just became part of our relationship." I was still pacing the room. What does this mean for us, Karen? Do you want to continue your relationship with me or with Joyce? Why do I have to choose, Jack? Karen was still sitting on the couch, leaning forward and studying my expression. I sat down in the chair across from her. Before I leave, explain to me how this is going to work. You'll be with me on Fridays and with her on Saturdays. Some kind of open relationship. That's not what we had in mind. Damn, you guys already discussed this? Maybe we had too much wine again, but why not give it a try? I don't know what that is. Imagine a romantic relationship between three people who share everything: love, emotions, and sex. You should ask Joyce out on a date. Most men find her more attractive than me, and I know she has feelings for you. I started pacing the room again. One of the traits of most engineers is to immediately look for a solution to a problem rather than dismiss it as a bad idea. And that's exactly where I was. I had been out with Joyce a few times. She was always at Karen's house helping her get ready when I picked her up, and she was attractive. I need to go home and think about this, Karen. I'm sorry. I need some time to think things through. Jack, we're both engineers and we think alike. I was hoping you wouldn't reject the idea and would be willing to think about it. But do this for me, Jack. Ask Joyce out to dinner tomorrow. It doesn't have to be anywhere fancy, but you should get to know her better before you make a decision. I agreed. Joyce asked me to meet her at a restaurant and sent me the details. On Saturday morning, she asked if I could meet her at Olive Garden at 7. I wanted to look her up on social media, but I just agreed. While we were waiting for our table, Joyce thanked me for agreeing to meet her. She and Karen saw it as a hopeful sign. She was attractive, maybe even more so than Karen, but I don't think the difference was significant. After we ordered, Joyce said I could ask her anything. Joyce, you're an attractive woman. Why are you sharing a man instead of finding one of your own? Karen and I were stunned when we found out our husbands were cheating on us. And, as in your case, the affairs had been going on for several months. My ex had several mistresses. Karen was the only one who kept me from committing suicide. And then we met this guy who was crying because his wife had cheated on him. A nice guy with a beautiful body. You know we had our eyes on you, right? I was drunk and don't remember anything after I walked into the bar. There were 4 of us. The other 2 girls were married. You were sitting at the bar. We were laughing, discussing who would invite you to join us at our table. Karen was our designated driver, and she volunteered. You spent the whole evening with us, and after the second drink, you started stuttering. I don't know how much you had drunk before that. So I ended up with Karen because she was the driver? Yes, the other girls called an Uber, and I went with Karen to help her with you. Our food arrived, and I asked, "How do you envision this? Are we all going to sleep together in one big bed and have a threesome?" To be honest, Jack, we haven't decided yet. We wanted to see if you were interested first. I think it would be less awkward if you slept with each of us separately. Maybe with Karen first, since you know her better, then a couple of times with me, and then it would be my turn. While all this is going on, will you and Karen continue your sexual relationship? My relationship with Karen is much more than just sex. I love her and would love her even if we didn't sleep together. But I don't want to lose the tenderness I feel when we're together. You still look confused, Jack. Joyce. Part of me thinks I started having feelings for a woman after I swore I'd never do that again. I broke up with her, and then I found out that the woman I had feelings for had already cheated on me with another woman. Jack, you weren't in a monogamous relationship. You were only on your 3rd date. And before your relationship went any further, she told you everything about our relationship. All 3 of us have experienced the pain of betrayal and don't want to cause that to anyone else. What if I give up threesomes and just want to be with Karen? Then one of us will suffer, Jack, and I don't know who. A few minutes later, Joyce took my hand. Will you see me again, Jack? We spent the evening talking about threesomes, not about each other. Maybe Wednesday? I couldn't say no. On Sunday, Karen created a group chat. and the three of us spent most of the day exchanging messages. They were much faster than me, and I asked them to slow down. Around noon, Karen suggested that since it was a beautiful day, the three of us should go for a walk in the park, instead of sitting at home looking at our phones. I agreed. Karen and Joyce arrived in Karen's car and took me by the arm, so I wouldn't feel left out. It was a beautiful day. Karen talked about Joyce. Joyce talked about Karen, and I talked about myself, my past, where we grew up, my brothers and sisters, and our children. I have to admit that I liked having two attractive women on either side of me. Joyce didn't work. She had filed for divorce and hadn't worked since her husband started cheating on her. She spent most of her time volunteering. Karen told me a little about her job as a programmer, and I told her about how I build things. We walked around the lake, stopped to buy hot dogs, and after another lap, we stopped to buy ice cream. We joked around most of the time, but then Karen became serious. Jack, here's my proposal for this week, or rather, Joyce's and mine. On Wednesday and Friday, you invite Joyce to dinner. On Saturday, we all have dinner together. What do you think? Everyone will be jealous when they see me with two beautiful women. Let's give it a try. But I can cook, you know. Karen pulled me in for a goodbye kiss. Not the first one. And then Joyce pulled me in for a goodbye kiss too, although Joyce leaned down and grabbed my butt. When I arrived on Monday, my administrator was waiting for me. She followed me into my office, closed the door, and sat down across from me. Don't worry, Jack. I've blocked the next hour in your calendar as personal time. Now tell me, does the third date rule apply? Am I the only person who has never heard of the third date rule? Maybe. But answer my question. I'll answer. But you'll never believe what I'm about to tell you, even though the third date rule was discussed. My assistant looked at me suspiciously when I told her about Karen's proposal to have a threesome with her friend Joyce. I told her about my date with Joyce and our plans for the weekend. Are you serious, Jack? I'm not ruling it out. And if I do, someone's going to get hurt. No one knows how it will actually turn out. I can book a table for 3 at a very nice restaurant, no worse than the one you took Karen to. And by the way, I accidentally booked a table for the same time with my husband. I need to get to know these two women. Do you care about me? Jack, I'll kill the next woman who hurts you. I call it self-defense. How do you have connections at all these restaurants? My husband works in finance and specializes in restaurants. He's well known in the industry, and there's no restaurant in town that would turn him down. Joyce made an impression on me on Wednesday and Friday. She was very pleasant to talk to, and I could easily imagine myself in a relationship with her. I could also imagine myself in a relationship with Karen. But a relationship with both of them. And what would the sex be like? On Saturday, the girls came over, and we all went to a restaurant together. We had just sat down when my assistant arrived. I was surprised that the waiter had left a 4th chair at the table. The girls had been informed that she would be joining us for dinner. My assistant said, I want to thank you. As I already told Jack, I expected to find him hanging from the ceiling one day. You two definitely made him smile, and why not? 2 beautiful women are interested in him. Karen replied, Don't worry. The 3 of us have been through more pain than any other person. We won't hurt Jack. Your intentions are good, Joyce and Karen, but statistics show that threesomes end badly. Jealousy usually kills them. We're aware of the risk. I didn't want to lose Karen. She didn't want to lose me or Jack, and he's pretty cute. Maybe it will work out, and if not, we'll be in the same shitty situation we were in before, Joyce said. How's your job with Jack? Karen asked. Jack is easy to work with. He's an engineer, so he's very predictable. The last year has been tough, seeing him suffer every day. I never told Jack about this, but about 2 years ago, I got promoted and had to work for some vice president. I quit. It came as a surprise to management. I agreed to withdraw my resignation if they let me continue working for Jack, and they agreed. I was going to threaten to kill you both. And she got up and left. You have an interesting administrator, Jack. Anyone else you need to keep an eye on? Karen asked. I shook my head. Let me ask you a question, I said. A little personal, but how often do you have sex? We need to discuss these things, Jack. Do you mean with each other or alone? Joyce replied. Let me add, Karen said, before you or after you? Because before you, it was maybe once a week, but not always. You lit a fire, and it seems like last week we had sex 3 times, and that's when we were together. Not counting shower time and getting ready for bed. Our fantasies are running wild, and we don't even know if we should start with just the 2 of us or all 3 of us. We can't agree on what's best. Joyce said, I think it would be better if it was always a threesome. But Karen thinks it's better to start with a couple. It's more familiar territory. Then the question arises. Will Karen and I continue as a couple, or should you be present? What do you say, Jack? 2 beautiful women in bed with me, pleasuring each other. That's an erotic dream. I wish I were 20 years younger. Karen said, Joyce and I never discussed what we did with our husbands. I guess I'll start. Basically, I did whatever my husband wanted in bed. The only thing I wouldn't agree to was sharing him with his friends. I thought he wouldn't cheat on me. But overall, I liked everything we did. Joyce looked at Karen with a shocked expression. I never did anything like that with my husband. You don't understand how hard it was for us that night when we tried to wash you, Jack, Karen said. Joyce replied, none of us had seen a naked man in over a year, maybe even 2. But we couldn't get it out of our heads, and that's why Joyce and I started seeing each other much more often. I was sure it would work out.